Thank you. Good day. Welcome to today's broadcast. Today we are discussing how the vote for the people of Zambia can be secured. How the vote, when they vote, that the expression of their will is not in doubt. That their vote will translate to the outcome of the results. That their vote is not manipulated. Why is it important to secure the vote? Is a discussion today. But as usual, we have preliminary issues to do and we have preliminary issues to deal with. I will start with, I was shocked by the statement by the president of the SDA in Southern region and what he said to justify the posters, the donation of 1.9 million kwacha to the Docas conference and the presence of President Hakainde Hichilema, because there was an accusation that for the first time an Adventist conference event or activity was so politicized, so very politicized, from the banner at the back to the welcoming President Hakainde Hichilema, putting a big picture of him, to the women carrying his placard and face, his portrait, chanting "Welcome, welcome." Many people were very offended. If you look on social media, including Adventists, they were very offended. But look at what Dr. Munyumbwe responded, and this is what I want to speak about before we go in any further into any matter.
The Republican president is a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in good standing. And what church members do in any organization, in any church, is they help their churches materially and with their personal participation. That is what church members do. And I'm just appealing to, people and the nation to accord the president the privileges of every church member to support the church that he calls his church. All right? To say that, whatever he does for the church, he must do for every other church, is almost telling me that each time I buy bread for my family, I must also buy bread for my neighbors. I love my neighbors, and whatever I am able to do, I can do. But to simply say, because I don't buy bread for them every time I buy bread for my family, that is unfair. That is illogical. Why am I saying it is also unfair? Because the assumption is force. And I'm using force in capital letters. Because the president does not only help the SDA church, he helps many churches. I don't have his permission to say whatever I know he does for many other denominations. But I can give you one example because I'm close. We are here at Rusangu. Just a month ago, the president was in Chikuni, a Catholic mission station, where he committed to help that mission station rebuild their farm. On the material date when he was there, he donated 10 animals. You follow me? And I'm aware that from then he began to mobilize to.
I was shocked to hear those views from a leader in the church who says, look, first you have to feed yourself before you feed the neighbor. That first your children have to eat first before you can attend to the neighbor. The instructions are very clear. The Lord, our Lord Jesus Christ, just gave two major commandments, and he says these are the most important commandments of all. He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. And he says the second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. There's no commandment greater than this. But Dr. Mnyumbwe says, no. You love yourself first before you love your neighbor. Last week I wrote an article, and I asked, if our Lord Jesus Christ visited State House and he finds President Hakainde Hichilema is seated with his cabinet, what would he say? And this is what I said. I said, what would Jesus do if he visited Lusaka today and found President Hakainde Hichilema addressing a cabinet meeting? What would he say? He would say, depart from me. For I was hungry and you ignored to provide food for me because you failed to lower the cost of living. For me, Christ is that person failing to put food on the table for his family as money is being stolen. Christ is that prisoner who has been unfairly imprisoned and denied due process of the law. Christ is a student at a university or college failing to meet his fees, failing to meet his needs while money is being stolen. Christ is that pensioner who daily travels to cabinet office or Ministry of Justice to attempt to get his hard-earned pension benefit. Christ is that activist abducted and taken away in unmarked vehicles and tortured. Christ would then overturn that fancy conference table at State House, and he would demand that you love your neighbor as yourself. He would demand that you take care of all your neighbors, especially the least of these. The Lord says, you shall not take vengeance or bear grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Truly I say to you, to the extent that you did one of the least of these to the brothers or sisters of mine, you did it to me. Now, it was a rebuke to President Hakainde Hichilema, and I was using the very famous verse when the Lord Jesus Christ visited the temple and he found the temple had been turned into activity of business. Some people took strong exception. He says, "Ao mwamba wila lete fya kwalesa kuli kuma politics." For me, everything is about the Lord Jesus Christ. I think I'm not in politics to do anything else other than service and serve my God. I've made it very, very clear that the reason I'm in politics is to attempt to clean up our politics. I'm not there in politics to enrich myself. I had an opportunity in government for 20 years. There's no corruption allegation against me. There's no audit that found me wanting. I was there for service because I said, how can a small boy from Rwanda, a child of a miner, a child from a poor family, rise to these lofty positions? I rose to those lofty positions because I felt that the Lord raised me to save others. That's why I ran an open door policy. That's why I helped. That's why I paid school fees for people I don't know, whose parents I didn't know, but I helped so many people that came on my door. Because if doors were not opened for me, I would not be where I am. So I'm always grateful. So that's why I I invoke the issues of God and the issues of Christ in my politics, hoping that our politics can be clean. Before I go to the main issue, there's something that has been brewing, which we discussed on Friday, the theft of medicine. Today, you remember that the U.S. ambassador to Zambia, accredited to Zambia, Michael Gonzalez, held a tearful press conference at which he cried, and he said the government of the U.S. was withholding $50 million. He says he's been pleading with government from 2021 that our money is being stolen. He's been pleading that our medicines are being stolen. He even undertook a private investigation where they visited 2,000 pharmaceuticals, or 2,000 times, and many times they found that 55% stocked medicine donated by the US, 45% donated medicine from other cooperating partners. What he said was that 100% of the medicines mostly found on many pharmacies and drugstores were actually stolen money, stolen medicines from either the US government or the the medicines donated by the EU and others. That is a very shocking revelation. The US ambassador proceeded to state that he had in fact spoken to government 33 times, 10, 20, 30 plus 3, 33 times since 2021. And he said he regretted that they had to invoke such a decision and withhold $50 million. Remember, the US is the largest bilateral trading partner with Zambia. They donate up to $600 million a year. Not even China, where we borrowed about $6.5 billion, come anywhere near. No one else comes anywhere near to what the US government does to our government. They've literally taken over our health infrastructure for the last 15 years. They support our annual health budget up to the tune of $600 million a year. You remember when Ambassador Foot was trying to impose the issue of the gender identity and ideology in our country, and there was a backlash, and President Edgar Lungu deported him. His cry, other than the corruption, he thought he had a say in our government. He says, look, we are giving you $500 million a year, and you say I can't have a say? My government has directed me that I have to mainstream LGBT issues, so I have to speak about them. This was just shortly after, an LGBT couple was imprisoned. They were, I think, based in Kapirimposhi, and there was a trial in Kabwe, and they were jailed to 14 years in prison. And Ambassador felt that he was failing in his duty. Remember, the previous government had even written the previous government, but it was under Donald Trump's first term. So there, we coincided, I think, with the vision of Donald Trump. He was deported, and there was no ramifications. But my point there was that he cried that you can't tell me that I shouldn't have a say when I give you $500 million a year. So the US, thanks to the Chinese, they built our schools, hospitals, power stations. But annual budget to the contribution, your biggest bilateral partner, is the US. So that's why our medical supplies have been disrupted. HIV/AIDS medicine, the ARVs, have been affected severely because of these developments. And the $50 million is outside the usual donation, because this is specifically to ARVs, to malaria, TB control, and some vaccines. So this was a major fallout last Thursday when the ambassador tearfully and cried. He said, I regret, but I've tried 3 times. But what was the response by our government? They held a press conference today. The Minister of Home Affairs said, we are investigating, we are on top of it. We'll arrest, there'll be no sacred cows, but we know there've been sacred cows the last 3 years. ZAMSA, former Director General Victor Nyasulu, says, look, they will not touch the big ones, and they know who the big ones are. They will touch small people like himself, Director General, who had just been in the office for about 6 months. But the theft of medicine has been going on for the last 3 years. And what's the theft of medicine? It's also in the procurement. It's also in the misprocurement. It's when you throw $75 million to Egypt irregularly, corruptly. It's when you want to throw $100 million to an infectious diseases hospital. It is when you give 7 contracts to a shady character who's always found with you. And you use CDF funds to buy ambulances. When you know foreign entities are not allowed in CDF, it defies the guidelines for CDF. But you give this shady character, who's actually just a mere resident, is not even a national in our country, and you give him first 7 contracts, including the ambulances. We were told the ambulances would be in, all of them, 156 will be in by end of March. We are in May, and the ambulances are nowhere to be seen. So That is theft of medicine. It's just not the small Panadol you find at a drugstore. It's just not those ARVs you are finding in a container, someone trying to smuggle them to the DRC. It is the looting of the treasury. It's the looting of this $600 million. Remember the PS that was fired when we exposed it? I exposed it on my page, thanks to those whistleblowers that keep on giving us things. He wanted to give himself a contract of $5.6 million. That $1 million, not kwacha, $5.6 million. He even declared interest. My university, I should declare it's my university. I will not sit in the procurement. But it's a PS. And $5.6 million was actually awarded and was nearly paid to him. Thanks to those whistleblowers at Ministry of Health who told us about this. And we are glad that President Hakainde Hichilema reluctantly responded and fired that PS. But when it comes to other big fish, he's extremely reluctant. Now, what am I saying? The response by Jack Mwimbu, he was flanked by Mlambo Haimbe, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and by the Minister of Health. And there were other technical officers. I think Jack Mwimbu, other than that, he didn't answer. There's an allegation that in his constituency, someone stole medicine worth 300,000, and there was an official who was protecting, who was telling the police that he can't be arrested because he's campaign manager for Honorable Jack Mwimbu. Honorable Jack Mwimbu has not responded to that matter. It's been in public domain for 1 month now. 300,000 worth of medicine was stolen from, I think, Chikuni and from Monze. And Honorable Jack Mwimbu has not responded because the culprit, the police couldn't touch him. The culprit was saying he's a campaign manager for Honorable Jack Mwimbu. And the police and Home Affairs fall under Honorable Jack Mwimbu. I thought that he should use that press conference, especially that the 300,000 worth of medicine that was stolen in his constituency, in a hospital in his area, by an official collaborating with either a pharmacist or a nurse, but the official is his own campaign manager or he was using the name of the minister to the police, and the police didn't act. The police spokesperson has never issued a statement about that matter. Baita FM covered it. Many blogs covered that matter of 300,000 worth of medicine stolen by this fellow who's associated with the Minister of Home Affairs, and nothing has been done. But besides that, I think the Minister of Home Affairs acquitted himself very well. He said, we are on it, we'll pursue, no sacred cows. But the trouble came from my young brother, Mlambo Haimbe. This is what he said.
Reiterate what we have mentioned before as a ministry of the need for the use of formal diplomatic channels in communicating with the general public. We would like to take this opportunity to again request our cooperating partners to take cognizance of the clear provisions of international law, including the provisions of the Vienna Convention of 1961, which outlines the expectations of conduct among diplomatic representatives, including the obligation to respect the laws and regulations of the receiving state and to refrain from interfering with internal affairs. Zambia, as I...
Now, how tables turn. The UPND in opposition loved the American ambassador to speak. They loved the British ambassador to speak. In fact, diplomats under them did even the most unconventional things. The European, EU, and other ambassadors even ganged up and went for lunch to President Hakainde Hichilema. I wonder if that can happen now with the threats coming from the Minister of Foreign Affairs. All of a sudden, he has remembered the Vienna Convention of 1961. All of a sudden, he wants the conduct of diplomats to be proper. All of a sudden, he wants diplomats to follow conventional methods. When it was suitable for them, they loved ambassadors to speak. In fact, when the ambassadors were quiet, they prodded on the ambassador to speak against the ills of Edgar Lungu. The tables have turned. Now you want the ambassadors to shut down and to shut up. Honorable Mlambo Haimbe, my dear young brother, I think it's not possible for the ambassadors to shut up. Like I said, the U.S. ambassador, his government contributes $600 million a year. And he's asking for prudency. He's asking that his money, it's not his money, it's money from taxpayers' money in the United States. This money is hard sweated for. It's a hard and big sacrifice for the people of the U.S. to give it to an African country every year so that his people survive. In Project 2026, we've said we'll never surrender Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health to donors, but this is what previous governments, including this one, have done. The health sector and education sector are all being run by cooperating partners. You can't tell them to shut up when you are not using diplomacy when stealing. You are stealing in daylight, but you want them to complain about the theft you are doing in daylight. You want them to use diplomatic means. And didn't the ambassador meet you guys for 33 times? I don't think that Michael Gonzalez is lying. He met you 33 times. This reminded me, was this fella who the Inspector General of Police has not arrested up to now, behaved because he has the backing of the senior leaders in the party? Because Mlambo Haimbe's speak is not different from this fella. Just listen to this.
Ringa.
Yes.
You accused diplomats.
Yes, some. I use the word
some diplomats of
Yes.
working with the opposition.
And I'm repeating it. I'm repeating it this evening. We have seen some diplomats accredited to Zambia and ambassadors. Some. Underline that. And they should stop it. We don't.
How are they working with opposition?
They're working.
How?
Listen. They're working with the opposition. They are working with the CSOs to undermine the nation's sovereignty, where we are saying we need to amend the constitution. And one of the key components is the delimitation, depriving the people of Zambia. Then this diplomat wants to be funny, funding people to say, no, you must make sure that this constitution does not go through. And you must make sure that this government is hunted out. My brother, he comes here in Mafinga. Now I'm speaking on behalf of the people of Mafinga. The diplomat comes here in this country to come and disturb the people of Mafinga who are enjoying the CDF, who are enjoying the social cash transfer, who are enjoying the enhanced social cash transfer, who now Mafinga, whenever the tar road between us road from 1964, we are being given the road. Where we were moving, it were taking patients from Mafinga to Isoka. Then this diplomat comes and say, what? No. I don't have even an apology.
You are not even apologizing?
No, to those diplomats. No ways. And I'm encouraging the government to say, if they are not going to do it, we'll find ways and means.
So you know them?
I know them and they know themselves. I know them. That we are not. I'm not even apologizing. They came here for the program. You, Mr. Shingo, can you go to another country? You go and be fun and talk about the internal democracy. In other countries,
they are not supposed to add their views.
They
are not supposed to add their views.
Yes, they have their mandate. They have their mandate and they have limits, but not limits where they start having that kind of meetings. Because we just hear that one diplomat in the compounds has been ransacked by people.
That's too much for you to say.
No, because they're having that kind of meetings, my brother.
The diplomats
where they're having.
We'll find it very very uncomfortable hearing this from the leader of the opposition.
Yeah, the remarks by Mafinga MP Robert Chavinga were totally unpalatable, threatening the diplomats, making false accusations that they were supporting the opposition, or because they just wanted to, for government to acquit itself from. They have a cooperation, and they have cooperation agreements, and they think that this current government of President Hakainde Hichilema has descended into tyranny, into dictatorship. It has closed down the media spaces. It's enacting laws that are taking away freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom of association. When they remind him, they're not plotting with the opposition. And the threats, where Chabinga was even saying some will deport by using cargo planes. And even when he was asked, despite, in fact, Mulambo Haimbe had said Chabinga's position was not the position of government. It was, he said he was speaking in his personal or private capacity. But Chabinga threatened diplomats. He even said, your children, we will know where your children are. What did he mean? Those are threats of kidnapping. So I gave an interview to the Mass newspaper where I said, this is very typical. The police will never act. And I said, where is Inspector General Grafio Musamba when all these things are happening? If it was a member of the opposition, that person would be locked up by now, would be breathing from Chimbokaila or from a cold cell, either at Woodlands or Ibex Hill, Chilenje or Emersdale or anywhere. But these people, whether it is those youths that threaten the life of President Edgar Lungu, those youths from Southern Province, whether it is those youths from Northwestern Province that stated that President Hakainde Hichilema should do them a favor and hand over Edgar Lungu to Northwestern Province so that those youths could circumcise him and unlive him. What did the Inspector General of Police do? Nothing. The case of JJ, where he named 2 State House officials as among those that were behind his abduction. What has the Inspector General of Police done about it? And I catalogued a lot of cases. When it comes to us, in fact, like the people that responded to the youths that were issuing threats against Edgar Lungu, they're the ones that were arrested. Maureen Mawongamfu MP and Munia Zulu's in prison now. They're the ones that were instead arrested, arraigned, and are being prosecuted and being sent to jail. So, what about Robert Chabinga, who's threatening, in fact, including kidnapping, abduction, and other unknown issues to diplomats that he alleges are speaking out and working with the opposition? Why hasn't he been arrested? Oh, how can we forget? Robert Chabinga is always with the president at rallies and press conferences and at public events and traditional ceremonies. So the Inspector General of Police can't touch Robert Chabinga. He's untouchable. So although the language is couched better, there's no difference with what Mulambo Haimbe has done. He's actually threatening the U.S. ambassador with deportation, because he's saying, if your conduct is outside this, what does it mean? What are the consequences if you are not adhering to the Vienna Convention? What are the consequences if you are speaking directly to the public without going to his office? What are the consequences? The consequences are that you can be declared persona non grata and you can be given 24 hours, 48 hours, and you can leave. In effect, Mulambo Haimbe is threatening the U.S. ambassador. Just listen to his words again.
Reiterate what we have mentioned before as a ministry of the need for the use of formal diplomatic channels in communicating with the general public. We would like to take this opportunity to again request our cooperating partners to take cognizance of the clear provisions of international law, including the provisions of the Vienna Convention.
Thank you very much. After dispensing with what Dr. Munyumbwe stated, where he says you should love your neighbor less, first love yourself, buy bread for your home first before you worry about your neighbor. I think a man of God of his lofty standing, president of the, Seventh-day Adventist Southern region, to speak like that when the instruction of the Lord are very clear. Love your neighbor as thyself. That's what it says, both in Deuteronomy and in the gospel. It's very clear. You love the neighbors as you love yourself. It doesn't say first love yourself first. So it was ridiculous that a man of God could say that. And then the saga continues for our medicines that have been stolen. The U.S. ambassador bemoaned that his medicine were stolen, and he cried about it. He cried. Now they are telling him to shut up.
Activities to prevent drug resistance and disease transmission. But we will cut $50 million a year of our annual contributions to providing malaria, HIV, and tuberculosis medicines. Now, as many of you may know, the Trump administration is in the process of finalizing a broader review of our foreign assistance funding around the world, including here in Zambia. That review is still underway. But I want to stress that this $50 million reduction in our medicines and medical supply budget in Zambia is wholly separate from that. This reduction is exclusively because of the lack of action by the Zambian government to respond to the countrywide systematic theft of American-donated medications and medical supplies, despite more than a year of intense requests and offers of support to realize those objectives. Moving forward, the United States does remain committed to supporting Zambia and the Zambian people to realize the massive potential that this great country possesses. Zambia's prosperous economic future and a healthy population that's going to drive that future is absolutely in our shared interest between Americans and Zambians. The United States remains deeply interested in contributing to that future. But we are no longer willing to underwrite the personal enrichment of fraudsters or the corrupt when patients go without.
Okay, that was the first segment. As usual, we deal with current issues before we go to the main topic, and you'll be able to call us on 0973-07808. Let me introduce today's topic so you can contribute to the current medicine saga, to the issue of the president of the Adventist in Southern Province, Southern Region, talking about how to love yourself before you love your neighbor, contrary to our Lord Jesus Christ's teaching, and to both Mulambe Haimbe government's response and our dear brother who also talked about Robert Chavinga, who literally, in my view, belongs to prison. He should be arrested for those threats against diplomats, because he's even talking about family. You should all remember that the theft of medicine is no longer in dispute, because even our Secretary to Treasury, Felix Nkulukusa, talked about it heavily.
Appointed colleagues to make sure that they come on board, and we are hoping that we can move together. The issue of the procurement of medicine, most of it with short shelf life, the major challenge we have had, and I would want to say this, sometimes when we fail, we should admit, is that the ZAMSA project, I could only describe it as a failed project. We have seen pilferages from the top up to the driver, up to the security guard and everyone else. And what we are discussing now is, can we have a ZAMSA reset? Not business as usual. And one of the things, I've been having meetings with the cooperating partners. The entire health sector was run by, most of it was run by the US government. We are receiving $600 million on an annual basis, $450 million going into the health sector. I asked the colleagues, the contracts manager from USAID, I had a meeting with the PS, we have been having meetings with them to try and talk about the reset of ZAMSA and how we fill in the void because USAID is going out. And I had a meeting with the contracts manager for USAID. How much does it cost for ZAMSA to distribute the medicine? 3.5 times the cost of what it costs for these agencies that are helping us to do this work. 3.5 times. So if we say ZAMSA starts distributing the medicine and we don't reset ZAMSA, it means we are going to increase the cost by 3.5 times. We had another situation where there was a report, there was no medicine at ZAMSA in 2002. We went in 2003, we had a lot of money from ZAMSA because of procurement. And we sat down and agreed with ZAMSA, for this medicine for this money we have, finish your money that we have. We are not going to recall it because this is an important sector. Finish this money before we start giving you the new money. As the money was coming, we were told, no, we don't have any money. Ministry of Finance is not releasing the money. And we received a lot of intelligence report where ZAMSA are saying they don't have the money. We produced a report, ZAMSA had the money. 2 days later, we were told there were trucks that were in a private garage carrying ZAMSA medicine that were not being accounted for. And you ask yourself,
thank you very much. I think the ground is laid. The ambassador demonstrated that he had conducted up to 2,000 own investigation to demonstrate that his medicines were being stolen, and the decision to withhold $50 million was well-founded. He said he had taken and bothered several times to ensure that government and this alarming record was brought to their attention, that their medicines were being looted. And Secretary to Treasury, when appearing, because the Auditor General has always flagged this theft from procurement, how these monies are being expended, how the procurement is a misprocurement, to actually down to the driver, like Secretary to Treasury puts it. Everyone is in need for it. They've been stealing from the minister down to the driver, from ZAMSA Director General down to whoever is delivering the medicine. And Secretary to Treasury said maybe ZAMSA is a failed project. Personally, I don't think so. I think ZAMSA is a wonderful project if you allow an independent board and the professional Director General to run with pharmacists. They can run a good job. We know when it was medical stores. But if you have procurement buying medicines worth millions of dollars that will expire in 2 months, they've stolen those millions of dollars because they know the medicine will be thrown away. Remember, there was a disposal of medicine and the figures were alarmed. I have to remember what the figures were. But they were disposing of medicines worth millions of dollars. Medicines, for diabetes, for very expensive medicine. Yet our people cry that the medicine is not available in clinics, hospitals, and health centers. But here we were banning medicine. Why? Because someone chooses to procure medicine which is about to expire. That is the easiest way in which they steal these millions of dollars. Just look at the record of the last disposal of medicine by ZAMSA. You will find that it's in millions of dollars. So it's not the medicine you find at a drugstore alone. I think that has been my emphasis, is that in fact the big fishes are stealing from the procurement process. Because there, if you are throwing $70 million to Egypt, if you are throwing $24 million to Egypt, if you are throwing millions of dollars under ZAMSA to one contractor one supplier associated with the minister, that's where the theft is. Don't worry about the drugstore and the nurse or the pharmacist who steals 5 sachets of Coartem. For me, I want you to plug the millions of dollars first that is being lost in that procurement. And I think that's where our worry should be. That is not to excuse that the loopholes are so many. For me, it's not ZAMSA to blame. Now let's go to the topic of the day. Protect the vote, secure the will of the people. Currently, if we went to elections, President Hakainde Hichilema will not score more than 34%. This is not my opinion. This is an opinion of an entity that was hired. I think it was hired by the handlers of President Hakainde Hichilema. We don't know whether it's Brent Hayes Foundation or Tony Blair Foundation, who did an opinion poll recently and found that the national appeal by the president was barely 34%. And there were some other indicators they put there. that he is likely going to lose the vote that he got in the 2021 elections, and that strongholds that belong to the opposition might retreat and recline to the opposition. So if Eastern Province gave President Hakainde Hichilema 50% in the 2021 elections, they are likely going to vote an opposition candidate. He's likely going to lose a big margin of the vote he got in Eastern Province, in Muchinga, in Northern Province, in Luapula, on the Copper Belt and Lusaka. His stronghold, Southern Province, Western Province, Northwestern Province, and parts of Central Province, he will still score, but his score again there will be reduced, because even in those areas, the people still, although they are UPND, although they may not change and support the opposition, two things may happen. They might be voter apathy because they have not yielded the results of putting a candidate they've supported all these years for the last 10, 15 years. They accuse the president that the beneficiaries of his presidency have been people around him. They accuse him of nepotism, tribalism, that a larger number in Southern, Western, Central, Northwestern Province still left out. You've heard the cries from Northwestern Province where they've said even if they are UPND, they feel marginalized. They feel that the president has not really attended to their concerns. So that report stated that the national appeal by the president is currently standing at 34%. If we went to an election tonight, tomorrow, next week, next month, President Hakainde Hichilema will not score beyond 34%. The factors have been, number one, that he has failed. Let me see if I have a video to just play on this matter. No, I don't have, but let me just look.
Convention of 1961, which outlines the expectations of conduct among diplomatic representatives, including the obligation to respect the laws and regulations of the receiving state and to refrain from interfering with internal affairs. Zambia, as I
So the national appeal by the president stands at 34% and below. If we went to elections today, he will likely not win that election. And that the major findings were that areas that were not his strongholds but supported him in 2021, such as Northern Province, Muchinga, Luapula, and Eastern Province, some Copper Belt, gave him up to 50% of those votes. The findings were that those will likely go back to their default setting of supporting the opposition other than the UPND. What has caused this? First of all, President Hakainde Hichilema came on the back of fighting for the economy. He said the economy was bad in 2021, that things were expensive. You saw him display to Pamela sugar. He says all these things were too expensive. Sadly, the economy has tanked. Things are more expensive 4, 5, 6 times than they were in 2021. That's factor number one. The reason Zambians changed. Remember, even if you ask Zambians, why did you vote PF out? Kairama Okadas were violent. My bus stops tamwali safe. The issue of the economy was actually even secondary. But President Hakainde Hichilema made it top number one. You attend to me, the price of milimi will come down to 50 kwacha. The price of fertilizer will be 200 kwacha. The price of electricity will come down. The price of fuel will come down from 17 kwacha to 12 kwacha. The price of the exchange rate will drop down from 17 kwacha to 12 kwacha. He became an appealing candidate, although this was not really a factor. But he made it a factor. He sang songs on this. So one of these biggest campaign broken promise is the economy. So voters are disappointed with him. The second one is now the skyrocketing cost of living. It's now such a huge crisis, like we are saying. They said the price of milimi was 90 kwacha, 120 kwacha. Now it's settled at 400 kwacha. So are other commodities. For that reason, people are saying they need to change government. Then you have legacy issues. Poverty has jumped from 54%, is now 60%. So for every 10 people you see, 6 are not even eating. That's what it means. They are living in extreme poverty. They don't even know if they'll eat today, if they'll eat tomorrow. So the poverty levels have jumped from 54% to 60%. We've become a low and middle income country together with Tanzania, Seychelles, and about 12 other countries in Africa. Now we are among the 6 poorest countries in the world beginning 2024. 6th poorest countries. So we are counted with countries that have been ravaged by wars, including countries like Somalia that have been a failed state for the last 30 years. We are among that number. It doesn't make sense why Zambia should be counted among those 6 poorest countries in the world. Then empty promises. Before fulfilling his promises, Zambians are shocked, are bemused, are surprised that the president has already engaged in Gear 5 campaigning for his re-election in 2026 when he has not delivered in his promises of 2021. He's already making fresh promises for 2026 when he's re-elected. There are other issues that have spawned the presidency. Corruption, we're just talking about the crisis at Ministry of Health, tribalism, regionalism, the division and disunity. I've never felt a country that feels so divided. While they sing unity, the country is sitting on a very fragile state. And these are not my views. The IMF report of 2022 said the state of the country, the polarization in politics, the state of the economy, the number of people that feels excluded, disadvantaged, and left out of the economy, that the country is sitting at a tether of literally a civil conflict. Those were the words of the IMF country report of 2022. The 2023 and 2024 report from other entities like the Human Rights Watch International, they used similar words. The state of the country is like it's sitting where you can have a popular revolt against government. But government lives in a bubble. Government is not recognizing the threats that are before it. Government is not recognizing what the international community and what Zambians are feeling. They've gone into a big mode. They're even campaigning for re-election. Imagine the arrogance. Imagine how they treat the opposition. In a fragile environment like that, where they are warning you that the tempers with people are here, that something can flare up. They are warning you. This is the IMF report, the Human Rights Watch International. It's not Emmanuel Mwamba. And they are saying your national appeal is about 34%. But look at the arrogance, how you treat the opposition, how you treat Zambians, the arrogance of your ministers. Today, one minister was saying he's so excited about Ndola because Ndola is looking like Johannesburg. And they keep on issuing statements like that. Arrogant statements divorced from the reality of our people. The other day, one of his aides has even produced a book to demonstrate that the president has delivered 90% of his promises. He says, I'm failing to even articulate how many things the president has delivered. Valungu. I said, maybe because Valungu were quotationary about Edgar Lungu. Elo Valungu wa basangwa pa State House. So since ngawabeta ti Valungu, abantu wamonokati waleita Edgar Lungu, maybe he has to do something extraordinary and produce such a report calling the emperor that the emperor is naked, and he expects everyone to clap along. So there's human rights abuses, there's human rights violation, there's the weaponization of the police and law enforcement agencies, there's a shrinking democratic space, and another matter, President Hakainde Hichilema has heightened the enactment of repressive laws. The Cyber Crimes and Cyber Security Act laws are one of them. Look at the anti-terrorism law that is providing for cyber terrorism and life imprisonment. Look at the closed circuit television act that he has provided, that is providing even the old law on censorship of media and film. They've reenacted it and they've weaponized it. You will see the kind of censorship that will not be allowed. Probably even live in cause may be bad. You should look at that law. So President Hakainde Hichilema has heightened the enactment of repressive and oppressive laws. Why is he doing this? Like I said, he has national appeal of 34% and below. He sees a loss. So how does he overcome the loss? So he's already jumped on the crisis that is not appealable, that he may not win this coming election. He's now gone to the second stage. How does he retain power, even if he's not appealable to the country, even if the country may not vote for him? That is a stage the president is at. The enactment of the laws, these oppressive laws, the weaponization of law enforcement agencies, the creation of laws of court specifically for his political opponents, like the crimes and criminal, the financial and economic court, see who's appearing. If any of his men are appearing who are engaged in corruption, none of them. So I have bothered to demonstrate to you that the president, what I'm saying, is aware about these reports. So how does he keep power in 2026? Because he's going nowhere. He wants to retain power. He wants to have his second term. So then how do you protect the vote to ensure that when the people go to vote and vote against him, how do you ensure that that vote is delivered and announced by Electoral Commission of Zambia? You have to be very alert at what is happening at the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Why are they keen to implement the delimitation exercise? Is the opposition watching the registration of voters and registration of NRC, issuance of NRC? Are you bothered as the opposition? Are you checking what is happening? Because you have a government that is not popular, that wants to retain power. You can't sleep on your laurels arguing about petty things when you are supposed to be supervising. The exercise for voter registration and NRC issuance should be an agenda of civil society and of political parties. We know civil society is dead. 90% of them were given jobs, and the 10% that are there are waiting for jobs. So the civil society in Zambia is dead. In fact, people say the only civil society grouping in Zambia is Brebna Changala, is the only one that seems to have held fort for that dim voice of the opposite of civil society. So civil society will not monitor the issuance of NRCs for you. Civil society will not monitor the voter registration for you. It is incumbent upon political parties to begin to expend the little resources, not even in by-elections, but in exercises that will give premise to the Zambian people when they express their will that will should be protected. The constitutional amendments, have you seen the 13? Have you seen the key ones other than the delimitation one? There's one to lower voting age to 16. So why is the UPND engaged in registering, issuing NRCs to students and pupils that could be 16 or will be 16 by 2026? They know that they are doing these constitutional amendments and they want those young people who are 16, because among the 13 proposals they are doing is the one on the age, definition of a child. Who is a child? Is it a child who's 16, 18, 21? They want clarity. If they will declare that a child is the one that is aged 16 and an adult then begins from 16, they will bequeath such a one all rights of an adult, including the right to vote. So the opposition, my appeal today is not to government. President Hakainde Hichilema knows what he's doing. He doesn't have national appeal. His appeal is 34%. He knows that he might lose the votes of those significant votes that made him tip over and win the presidency. The votes from Eastern Province, Northern Muchinga, Luapula, Copperbelt and Lusaka. He knows he's lost that because those people voted for him because they were disgruntled with PF. They were disgruntled that PF had not delivered, or PF had become a violent party, PF had become arrogant, PF had become corrupt. So they said, limitweshe call you. Number of Kirepo has become worse. The angel they put is far terrible than the devil they thought they had kicked out. So President Hakainde Hichilema is working full time to ensure that he wins. Number two, the disruption that is occurring to the opposition, the attempt to decimate the Patriotic Front, all those things are not happening in isolation. The infiltration that is occurring in Uka, even Tonse, is again on the table. President Hakainde Hichilema is sorting out. Alemona, nikwisa okuli strength, nikwisa. Therefore, when we go to elections, he should be the only man standing. That's number two. So the opposition in your ranks, you'll be infiltrated. It might be your deputy. It might be whoever it is that is in your ranks. There is heavy investment. The way you are seeing the vitenges that are brand new, the t-shirts that are new, do you know how much it costs to print those posters they are printing from Horizon? If you photocopy, when they are printing, these are disposable papers from Horizon Communications and very expensive paper. Like you saw at the SDA or any of Hakainde Hichilema's rallies, whether it's at a traditional ceremony, whether it is where. They have money, and part of the money is to destroy the opposition. How do you destroy the opposition? You buy the elements. If you can't buy them, you lock them up. If you can't lock them up, you infiltrate their systems where people are reporting to you everything that is being planned. The confusion in the opposition is not natural, it is sponsored. So that Zambians can say, opposition nabo, moneni, we want to vote for them, but moneni bale shitamangalo, shirabushikubalelaka. That confusion is sponsored. And until we, elements in the opposition, are led to infiltration, to voices being bought, to a dead civil society, because there's a dead civil society, to social media, to those breakfast shows. I'm a communications expert, and I know how to procure an opinion every morning. People say, Mwamba, you post a lot of things on Facebook. I want to influence an agenda in the country, and I know how to influence an agenda in the country. So what about people that have money, that have experts from Kenya, from Tony Blair Foundation, from Brentes Foundation? They've set up one of the largest media team I have ever known in any political parties. PF, Dixon Jere and his people, Richard Sakala and his people, Wakombe na Bamwanawasa, never had that kind of infrastructure. They have, I think I counted up to 26 spokespersons in the media. Why would the government put huge investment in a media outfit? They want to influence your voice. They want to procure a narrative that President Hakainde Hichilema is popular. They want, when you turn to radio, whether it's private or public, the narrative is the same. So there is a huge investment in the media and in their media team to attempt to drown out the voice of Zambians, the voice of the opposition, the voice of the church, the voice that should demonstrate that things are well. That is why for the first time the Adventists, who are very conservative, the SDA, can engage in what you are saying. Go public about campaigns. The man, the president, has a national appeal of 34%. He wants to tip over. Even if 48%, maybe Paranoff, then Asapita tip over to 50%. So he's desperate, and that's why you are seeing these desperate antics. Someone was telling me, ule printe fini living ngoma. I said, dawe living ngoma tapava nendala makwata. Niba Hakainde Hichilema wa boss wako. Ina bachita approve fiancefi. So don't say it's the people around the president who are bad. No. He is the one to get re-elected. He is the agenda. It's not Levi Ngoma or anybody or any of those aides. It's the president and his name at stake. He has hired image builders. He's got total control of ZNBC public media and I dare say even private media. The constitutional amendments have warned, especially delimitation and some of the clauses that we have to watch. The enactment of cyber laws, I have never seen so much silence. People are preferring to come to my inbox. They can't now express themselves. We continue to have a lot of Zambians that are brave, but the most notable voices in our country are quiet. The cyber laws have brought a chilling effect on our country of silence. So this is what will happen. There is what they call a Stockholm syndrome. A Stockholm syndrome arises from the story of victims that were, I think, a woman or a girl that was abducted. And when she left, finally, when they freed her, she had fallen in love with the abductor. So they call it Stockholm syndrome. And, this has been now spread, especially in psychology and abuse cases. There's usually that question that the woman who grew up in an abusive home where the father used to beat the mother is likely going to get married to a man who abuses her. The number of boyfriends or partners they will have, they will leave this partner for beating them, but engage in another one who's actually again beating them. It's called the Stockholm syndrome, where this unnatural affinity to your abuser. We have to be careful that our people do not vote for those that are stealing from them. That our people are protected. I gave you the story of a chicken, that when you pluck out the chicken feather by feather and is bleeding at the verge of death, but you who was plucking out, if you put out your hand and give it stock feed, the chicken will come and eat from your palms. We should ensure that our people are not turned to that chicken, that our people are not allowed that the guy who's stealing from them is the one they go back to. This is only possible if we, the opposition, don't show them love. If we, the opposition, do not show them alternative programs. If we, the people, don't step up in to protect their will, we have to guarantee that if they vote for Hichilema and say no to Hichilema, we have to give them confidence that that vote will translate to their will. No one will manipulate. There is an interesting case that I'd even asked my friend Charles Panje to study and document it. Charles Panje was standing for Mbala. He's former PS, Northern Province. SCCA holder, is a fellow in accounts, and he goes about everything he does methodical. I'm sorry, Charles, I haven't sought your permission to speak about this matter, but your case is a very, very good case to speak to. Charles went into Mbala, camped there literally 2 years. He knew every polling station. He knew every collation center. He knew every voter. On voting day, he had planned to ensure that he locates every voter, brings them to the center, they vote. Charles Spanje by midnight was leading when they started counting by over 90%. When he woke up in the morning, the candidate for UPND won. We were all shocked. The people that alleged voted for the case of Umbala constituents for researchers, you should go there. So 2 scenarios could have likely happened in Mbala and probably across the country. They simply appended the votes. So Spange's votes became UPND votes, and the UPND votes became Spange's vote, and he lost that election. Spange and his team went to sleep at the last minute. They had won. Wherever they were counting on all the polling stations, they were leading by 70, 80%. 0-1 Mkusendama, we're even counting it, Pama PVT, that Mbala, we've ticked it. We woke up to a huge loss of Mbala. The lead that Charles Spange had commandeered. He knew every voter, he knew every polling station, he had registers with his campaigners. Each campaigner in each ward, in each branch had the register. So they just didn't ask for mass appeal or rallies. No, they knew every voter. He was mathematical. The mind he has of that of an accountant. He went about it in a scientific manner. But he recorded a huge loss. And like I'm saying, I've always been interested in that case. Because this is a case where everyone said he had won. You wake up in the morning, he had lost. One for the opposition, if you don't secure the vote, in the last by-elections, which has alarmed us, I think our leadership from Fred Membe to Given Luwinda, Raphael Nakachinda, they've all been talking about it. That there is a pattern. Trevor Mwinde, like in Kawambwa, Trevor Mwinde turns up at the last 3 days. And they just look for polling stations. And then they beat and chase the polling agents, party agents and NGOs. They just remain party agents for UPND and ECZ. And you lose that election. Is it science that they are using violence to take away the voice of our people? Do we know why they are chasing our party agents, both opposition agents and NGOs that are monitoring those elections? We've talked about it, but what's our action plan to counter when Trevor Mwinde arrives with his thug in a by-election 2 days before elections? We saw Christopher Shakafuswa counter Mwaliteta in the by-election that happened in Feira. Emmanuel Tembo was MP, who's MP in the area, was resolute. They chased the party agents. Emmanuel and Shakafuswa reinstated them. They had pitted battles with obvious Mwaliteta. It became a violent election, but in the end, ECZ were ashamed. They had to announce a result. Until the opposition are willing to take that sacrifice, are willing to invest in security, that when the UPND security team comes to chase their party agents in polling stations, that those party agents will stand, will refuse to be chased. Let them kill them if they want to do that. But what happens is you put these young grade 12, that have just left school, you give them 100 kwacha kamchiten monitor, mwabashitira books mwabatwala. Trevor Mwinde, when he comes with his thugs, those kids run, they scamper. So we have to be aware, in Zambia, the election is at a polling station. You win at a polling station, you win the national election. I gave you the example of Spange's constituency in Mbala in 2021, where he was very methodical. He bought the register. He knew every voter. He assigned campaigner very specific to each voter and ensured that each voter turned up to vote. He knew the numbers that had come. They ticked in the register. They had fraternized with the voters for over a period of 3, 4, 5 months. And when the vote started at 18 hours, he was leading 0-1 Wakomboka Tina to win. The following day, the election was overturned. And I've now talked about what has been happening in Pambashe, what has happened in Kawambwa, where Trevor Mwinde, the deputy national, the UPND deputy national youth chairperson, is the one that everyone talks about. He's the one that arrives from Lusaka with minibuses with a horde of thugs and beat up chase our monitors and party agents. ECZ is a compromised institution. Madam Mwangala Zalumis is UPND. Our dear brother, the other commissioner, is UPND. What pressure have we done? Why are we not in court about this matter? Why aren't we putting public protest and pressure to ensure that the ECZ is independent? Why aren't there centered activities around ECZ to emancipate it from the hold of the opposition, of State House? We should pretend that Mwangala Zalumis is independent. We should pretend that Mwangala Zalumis will deliver a free and fair election. We are fooling ourselves. How will you protect the vote? How will you secure the vote? We want to Akwalesa. Those were the three major issues I had, is that we have to secure that vote. We have to protect the will of the people. Your reliance on donor community doesn't stand. I have monitored various elections where the opposition have won, but the one that ECZ announces, every cooperating partners will say, respect the institutions, respect the outcome that has been announced by Electoral Commission. Whether it was in the DRC, whether it was in Madagascar, where I personally monitored elections where they were heavily disputed, whether it was in Mali, wherever it was, all cooperating partners line up, or even Zimbabwe, remember, it doesn't matter what you say. When the so-called independent electoral commission announces the results, you are all obliged to respect that decision. They will say, Kabien Kukoti, who is at court? Kurimumba Mariland is judiciary, which is an appendage, literal an appendage of State House. What will be the outcome? We are remaining with under 1 year. And I think as the opposition we are playing, we are not committed. We are not looking at these threats that are before us. We are not picking the dividends that are for us. The Zambian people have rejected President Hakainde Hichilema. They are saying the cost of living is high. They are saying the corruption is so high. They have bemoaned the theft of natural and mineral resources. What's happening at First Quantum? What's happening at Mopani? What's happening at Vedanta? Our people have made up their mind. But this mind, where will it go? To the opposition, and what are we doing? Today it was a rebuke against ourselves as the opposition. I don't think we are invested in harvesting the will of the Zambians. I don't think that we are invested in securing this vote. And at this stage, a year before, and I move to another stage, is we should have a candidate. We've played too much. We should have a candidate where all of us begin to rally around such a candidate. We are 1 year remaining. I know there are risks of jail, risks of all of us being beaten, tortured, whatever it is, but akashitakapwa. We need to put our act together. We need an anti-rigging system put in place, robust, invested in. We need to begin training our party agents. This is what happens. This is the voting. This is a register. We need to participate in the voter registration. Currently, the NRC issuance, there is what they call voter suppression, where you make it difficult in the areas of your opponent. So President Hakainde Hichilema and Jack Mwimbu are making it difficult for our people to register or get NRC. Mwaya at mashinta ile bomba. Awe ink has run out. Awe takuli amalite. That's called voter suppression, where you put in so many spanners in the way that the people are frustrated. They don't register. What are we doing about it? Please call me on the number listed below. We're discussing 3 major issues. The theft of medicine and government ordering that ambassadors must use channels, and the importance of guarding the vote, securing the will of the people.
reiterate what we have mentioned before as a ministry of the need for the use of formal diplomatic channels in communicating with the general public. We'd like to take this opportunity to again request our cooperating partners to take cognizance of the clear provisions of international law, including the provisions of the Vienna Convention of 1961, which outlines the expectations of conduct among diplomatic representatives, including the obligation to respect the laws and regulations of the receiving state and to refrain from interfering with internal affairs.
Have to buy life-saving medications that we've provided for them for free. And the Zambian government doesn't take action to enforce meaningful accountability or introduce systematic reforms to ensure that those resources that belong to the people actually reach them. I thank you for joining me here today, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ambassador Gonzalez. With that, I'd like to welcome any questions from the media. Raise your hand if you have a question. Please state your name and the media outlet you are from. I want to stress that for today, we want to keep this focused on the topic we're addressing, U.S. assistance to the health sector. So please, questions on that topic. But with that, we very much welcome any questions that you have. Yes, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Right, I'm just trying to put myself together because this is really shocking. My question, my name is Rachel Mumba.
You have to remove 100 people, so it will be.
And my question is going to you, your ambassador.
Because you know the health sector has been a sick sector itself. Supposed to be healing, but it's been sick in terms of theft of public drugs. It's a cancerous situation. It's an old situation we inherited. So the president asked for an audit, not a normal audit, but a forensic audit. And we knew that inside government we didn't have the capacity. But the audit of all public finances is the Auditor General. This story is very important. So we then asked the Auditor General to subcontract to private firms with capacity to do forensic audit in accordance with the law. And that process was undertaken. Terms of reference were reviewed by our cooperating partners in the health sector. And the contract was awarded to PricewaterhouseCoopers, led by Andrew Chiboya.
Okay, please make your contribution, but don't call my private line. Call on the number that I've advertised. But I'm giving you an exception because you've appealed. Tell me your name and where you're calling from.
Okay, my name is Ted Nkunga.
Okay.
Calling from Kabwe.
Yes.
Yes. Ambassador, I think you have stated very well. I think I've been requesting for this issue, training the AMA agents.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'm a PF supporter in Kabwe.
Okay.
So, issue of training AMA agents, we know how these government, they are desperate. They are very desperate to return into power next year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we are going to sleep like if to our opposition, I'm telling you, Hakainde Bukawa Pambare 2026. Because of what? And the foot ama divisions, ama divisions muli wa opposition. We are fighting ourselves. While the UPND, they are enjoying these fights. Look at the way Chavinga came out. Nefine Wamlambaimbe, the way he came out. It means these people, they are communicating. So, that's what I'm saying. Because me, I reported Chavinga last week on Wednesday. Up to date.
Oh, you reported. You are the one. You are the one that reported Chavinga to the police.
Yes, I reported Chavinga to police on Wednesday.
Ah, wonderful, wonderful.
Yes. So balesungirana fye mirandu the commission of police baleran that me I cannot comment on this issue unless they are monga. They have not commented over it because they know that they are working with Chavinga. But the truth of the matter, we want to see where this case is going to be. Otherwise, we are going to fight. Me, I'm one of those people who is going to defend and protect the votes in 2026 to make sure that this government should go. Ninji Shtikapo and I'm fearless. I'm not scared with anyone for the sake of our country. If we are going to be shivering because of this government, I'm telling you there will be no Zambia to talk about 10 years from now.
Yeah.
We need to stand. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Continue educating us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teddy from Kabwe, the gentleman that has reported Chavinga for threatening diplomats, and he said, I will speak, and I'll speak loudly, and he said he will ensure that his complaint is acted upon. Please call on the number that has been displayed. Let me just confirm again, because it's a local number, but we are using its WhatsApp. Let's just ensure that everything is properly connected, that you call on this number and contribute. Okay, it looks like it's connected. So call on this number and let's hear your contributions. Okay, no, the phone is okay.
I think you know Andrew, some of you. And Andrew was given, Pricewaterhouse was given the work to do up to December, the initial work. So we decided, the president decided we needed to have an initial report to see which direction this thing is going. In the process, some of our cooperating partners started issuing contrary statements that there's nothing happening in controlling the problems in the cancerous health sector, contrary to what we agreed as a process. So I called a meeting here. We had a meeting like this last Friday. I think it was Friday. And opened remarks, the media left. When we went through, we ended up working together and hugging each other. That's what can happen if people start to issue contrary statements without reaching out to each other. And you find that the work we agreed, what Pricewater has done, is in accordance with the work we asked them to do, the preliminary report, the final report.
Hello, yeah, please proceed. Yes. Yole salet sunga shana imwe.
From Leicester.
Thank you, my brother. Please make your contributions.
Yeah, I think I will be getting you back to where you started from, drugs.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just amazing how our government is dealing with things. I don't even know. Do these guys even have advisors? And do they have people who advise them honestly? Today, or rather, let me get back to where it started from.
Yeah,
we had Gonzalez. Remember, you served more diplomatic mission.
Yeah, correct.
For him to have gotten to a point where he's just, in fact, do you know, I'll be honest with you, and this is the beauty of technology. Somebody was streaming it live for me. I was warned. I was told he was going to make a statement. So I was watching, and the moment he started speaking about him being personal, I'm like, hang on a second. I think he shouldn't be saying this. But I agreed with him because this was something that was painful to him. It was just painful.
It was no longer work. It was no longer ordinary work.
Exactly. There was no diplomacy there anymore. He says, I've held, and he was saying, I. He said, I have had meetings, 33 meetings with these people, and they've done nothing. What do we get? Immediately after, Bamwamba, there's a statement released by, who was it?
The Minister of Health, Honorable Elijah Mchima.
Yes,
and he says, no,
saying
Fiaba PF with.
we engaged them. We've even taken measures to address this. Now, you wait, and I'm sorry. Do you know there are times that I get carried away. Sometimes I would probably use words which would get me into trouble in Zambia. I'm not here.
No, we want you to go back to Zambia so you can choose your words carefully. Until I change those laws, you have to be careful. Yeah.
So, okay. What I'm trying to say is, listen, you people, somebody was just telling you that we engaged you over a period of 4 years. You didn't do anything. By the time he was making that press statement, he had already looked at everything and anything. Why are you going to come back and say, oh, we had engaged them, we had already addressed the issues that they raised? It means it wasn't enough. And what we get today on a Monday, 3 of them, Bamwamba, did you watch?
Oh, yes. I thought, this is a good one. Wonderful statement. Yeah.
Saying the same gibberish.
And
anyway, what I would say to this government is, we've only got 7 months before that 50 million goes. Please tell me how you plan on plugging that hole. That is what I want to hear from you. And there's no point in saying we've engaged them, blah blah blah, and in the background you are saying we are still speaking to them. It doesn't make sense to me. My God, we made a mistake. Seriously,
True. No, that's why I'm saying we Zambians must move to the next stage. How do we secure the vote? It is clear. Many people think that this government has failed and they are looking for alternative. The alternative will come from us, the opposition. We should provide a leader and we should provide mechanisms to secure that vote, to ensure that the expression and will of the people is not subverted or stolen. So thank you very much, Bachilufia. Thank you. And how's the weather in Leicester? Is it cold? Is it hot?
Oh no, we had like 21 degrees yesterday and today.
Oh, okay.
So how are you?
It's some good summer. No, thank you for worrying about our country and for always committed to our country. We pray our country will be better. Thank you, Bachilufia. Let's pick other calls. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, make your calls to the discussion today. We are talking about the theft of those drugs. It's a continuous topic in light of government reaction today. And we are saying President Hakainde Hichilema has lost the national appeal. He's standing at, we have a caller here. Hello, good evening. Good evening, sir. Are you calling in for the program?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You can switch off your feedback. You can switch off your feedback and then make your contribution. There's feedback on your other device. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Yes, Bino.
Honorable Binwa Mpundu, Independent Member of Parliament from Ghana. Glad that you came and joined in, my dear brother. Please make your contribution. Uh-oh. Have I lost Honorable Binwa Mpundu? Hello? Mkwai. Yole salet sunga bane mulishani mwebe nankana. Mkwai. My dear brother, I'm honored that you've joined us. Make your contributions.
Okay, so in ninga Falkland mwamba, and I said this I think a year ago, and there were a lot of people that came and attacked me as usual, the press singers who come, and I said the next election of 2026 will be the second independence struggle for our country, Zambia.
True.
Clearly, it has become very apparent that the people in charge did not come here to save the people of Zambia. They came here to fatten their pockets. Okay? This is the very first time after 60 years when we have a government that is committed or determined not to meet the obligation to the people, but to basically gag and shut down anyone who is holding them accountable.
Yeah.
You know, Your Excellency, Ambassador, that we have been a beacon of, democracy in the region for many years, and those accolades have been held by many who are democratic. It is the very first time today that we've gone as far as, enacting very draconian laws, the likes of the no cyber laws. Now, a government that is determined to shut everybody up using the law cannot guarantee you that they are committed to doing anything for the people. And I have always said, and I copied a saying from the people of the Eastern Province, Abalando Kutila, when a lion attacks the madman in the village, don't ignore, because the royal alio penene nkalam yalio penene mwalaba kwata olishiru yalia na mairo ya isayalia na umbi upenene amashiru yonse yaka mushi ili nkalam ikambo okufwaya abatuntulu. And that is what injustice, does. Martin Luther says, an injustice committed to one person is an injustice to everyone. I keep repeating that when our friend, as an example, JJ, was abducted, I was called all manner of, names by a lot of people when we stood up to fight for JJ's case. Today, look at the injustice that has been meted on many people. Today in Zambia, when you become a whistleblower, you now attend from being a victim to a villain.
Including the American ambassador who's being warned.
Exactly. And I've just written a statement where I am saying the ambassador is only protected by his immunities.
Yes. Kasai bangana kabekata. Kasai bangana kabekata.
he would have been arrested today because we have a government that wants to shut everybody up. Now, I want to make a request, your ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that a lot of Zambians who are interested in the welfare of Zambia are out with, like you, in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas they managed to gag all of us who are in Zambia through this bogus, this useless law, the cyber law.
Mm-hmm.
They would think that they would have won by shutting every Zambian up. Because except me, but what I just want to ask is, please join in the fight for a better Zambia.
Yeah.
If we can't speak, if everybody cannot help us, we'll provide you with the information. Information
correct.
Some of us will use the parliamentary privileges even though it's no longer guaranteed.
Yeah.
Okay. Ambassador, you know that the law, the parliamentary privileges, is not a guarantee anymore for a member of parliament.
Look at the case of Bunia Zulu. Look at the case of Bunia Zulu.
Balamba no kutukaka from the floor of the house. But we are going to fight to floor to speak about all these atrocities being committed.
Yeah.
You know the corruption around the toll gates.
Yeah.
Blatant corruption. In daylight. Look at how we have ignored the fuel saga. The economy was almost grounded to a halt. The economy has literally gone to its knees at the hand of one individual.
Yeah.
Look at the saga before this drug nonsense, Bamwam. Look at the 100 million, corruption in the Ministry of Health.
Yes.
Look at the containers. How does the government ignore all those, corruption cases? How does the government, think that we, the Zambians, are so foolish not to see all this, daylight robbery? Middleman in the movement of power.
Of electricity at our power trader.
Northwestern mines over all these years. It has the infrastructure. It is the one that produces power. Middle company.
So let's move to Mkwai.
Be our mouthpiece. Kabira abantu besu muno bonse balina omwenso mulando w'amafunda batukalaesha mule tuipushako tukalakupera ama information mule tulanjirako since ifo tulimba nomba natukula palulimi lwesu.
Natasha Bane, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Bino Mpundu. Thank you. Let me take this other call. Thank you. Hello, good evening. You are the owner of this program, Chilufya from UK.
Yes, please.
Your other brother, Chilufya from Leicester, has already contributed. I was saying, where is Chilufya? Is he so busy today?
Yeah, no, I was doing something.
I'm quiet.
Yeah. So, remember, what was the subject today?
Oh, we are talking about three things. The medicine saga, government issued a statement today where they have literally urged the diplomats, they are literally telling the American ambassador to follow diplomatic channels. So as I was arguing that statement was threatening and was mischievous because the ambassador had reached them, engaged them over 33 times. And then we were discussing how to protect the vote. I was attributing to a report that was done recently, an opinion poll that has demonstrated that President Hakainde Hichilema only has a national appeal of 34% and below. and that entities that voted for him, non-strongholds like Eastern Province, Muchinga, Luapula, Copperbelt, and Lusaka are likely going to vote the opposition, and that he may have voter apathy in the strength of the UPND strongholds, such as Northwestern, Western, Central, and Southern Province, because even there they are failing. They are feeling the lack of government presence and services. And therefore, I am saying the opposition must move to the next level, where we engage now in a strategy to secure the vote and secure the will that Zambians will express, that will is not stolen. Mkwai.
Okay, yeah. So, Lamamba, on the drugs, I've seen that statement in capital letters. It's really, really sad. You know, to me, that firefighting exercise was unnecessary. Because the ambassador was categorical that they investigated, they gave the report to the government, so they engaged them. But you know the problem we have, Bamwamba, I'm so sorry. Our UPND government, the government that I supported, is very arrogant. They don't want, they're not humble. And then they want to pass the blame to somebody else. So the blame now is the ambassador. Instead of putting the house in order, all the ambassador is saying, guys, even me, when I go back to America, they will call me to the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
To explain. You'll be quizzed about that. So, and maybe that's why he was crying.
Yeah.
And so they cannot blame that guy. And not only that, if you remember, the secretary to the cabinet also issued a statement. He said ZAMSA is a failed project. He actually says it's a rotten system. The system is rotten. And then he went on to say that they had meetings with the US8 representatives. He even mentioned account orders. What do you call them? What do they call them? Account managers for Zambia.
Yeah, yeah.
And they discussed these issues. So there's no way the government would come and say, before they speak to them. They use diplomatic channels. No, that's not acceptable. They did their best, but they're dealing with the government that thinks they know everything.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with a government that doesn't know that running a nation is stewardship. It's a collaboration with all stakeholders involved in the nation. Even Americans are stakeholders because they give us money.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, Bamwamba, for as long as we are depending on aid, donor-funded money, we'll never have sovereignty. We'll never have dignity.
No, that's something you trade immediately. As soon as we allow the US, the British, the EU to run our education and health sector and to fund their budgets almost entirely, we surrendered sovereignty to those areas.
Yeah, hello, Nani. What surprised me was Secretary to the Treasury, Kulukusa, said that 50 million is even smaller. These guys are funding about 600 million every year.
Yes.
So somebody who funds you 600 million,
you expect them to keep quiet?
So there's no way. So, Bamwamba, not until we have a government that starts to realize that God has given us resources and start harnessing those resources to the benefit of Zambians. And start using those resources to pay the debt. The day we pay the debt, we stop begging, floating around the world with the begging plate.
Wow, yeah.
That's the day we'll be respected.
Vachilufia Natasha Sana, thank you. Let me take some more calls and thank you.
And then Let me just make another one point. Yeah, on UPND popularity, I don't think the UPND understand our politics. You, Ramamba, you understand politics. UPND won my elections because it was a protest vote.
Against, yes. It was not a vote for.
Against the PF. Against the PF. And the main reason why people didn't want the PF is because of the act violence from the cadres.
Yeah. Yeah.
Among Americans. So it was a protest vote. So in every election, they need to understand that they are swing voters. And it's the swing voters that voted for UPN.
Yes.
So they shouldn't think that 2.8 million is intact. No. It's not intact. And especially the way they've treated their strongholds. There's no way that 2.8 million will be intact.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned something very important on the voter protection. If the opposition, to start with, the opposition needs to be united.
Yeah.
The opposition needs to come up with one
candidate.
One leader. Candidate. If that doesn't happen, forget. So one candidate and the opposition, it has to be UPND versus Zambia. Like what happened, UNIP versus the entire Zambia.
No, thank you very much, my brother. Let me take this call as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. There are so many people calling.
Hello.
Please make your contribution. I notice you've been calling. Tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Honorable Sencho Banda, former MP. How are you, my dear brother?
Yeah. Fine, and how are you?
Thank you for those views. You write very well. I'm impressed by your articles and continue to be brave. Make your contribution, Honorable Sencho Banda.
Yeah, firstly for me, I want to pick it from the President's speech where he says this particular problem of Ministry of Health has been an ongoing thing for 20 years. Much as I agree with him, because obviously, look at 2009, you had the Swedish government withdrawing temporarily support then the MMD government because of the same problem. In 2018 and 2019, the same thing happened. The support was withdrawn temporarily because of the accusation. And now we have got this problem at hand. And for me, UPND was voted in to come and make a difference.
Yeah.
And what is key, what should not lose sight of is that the donor community has played a critical role to complement successful governments to ensure that the lives of people are improved. And the ambassador did allude to the fact that about $600 million annually comes from the U.S. government. And for example, the PEPFAR fund, which is right now under review, is about $367 million. And when that is put under our carpet, if our decision goes contrary to ourselves, we will have serious problems. For argument's sake, the little progress we've made in various sectors of the economy and also social sectors, health, and so on and so forth, as a result of the support from these cooperating partners. And we've seen the EU coming handy to open up the budget support. They pledged about 6 million euros, and they gave us an initial 20 million euros for support budget. And furthermore, in 2024, May, they gave us 110. Again, the 60 million euros went towards the budgetary support, and the $50 million went to early child education in targeting Wapula and and also Northwestern. This demonstrates the fact that we need these collaborating partners. And as such, when such issue was raised by the ambassador, and the government's role was
being a data call, maybe has received another call. It's cut. He may call back, but I think we got the point. Thank you, Honorable Binwo Mpundu, independent member of Parliament for Nkana, and for that encouragement. And my brother, I'm very grateful. I commend you for being brave, for speaking despite the threats that have been issued against you, your tenure as Nkana MP, your role in Parliament, and even against your life, the numerous harassment, including arrest that you've suffered. Continue to speak for our country. Colleagues, I think it is very clear that this government has failed. But what do we do? Just hold on, we have someone calling. Please tell us your name and your number. Name and where you are calling from.
Yeah, this is David. Good evening, Mr. Emmanuel Mwamba. I don't know if it's morning or evening.
Yeah, tell me your time where you are. That will be fine.
It's 21:53.
Thank you. So please proceed to contribute.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity by Emmanuel Mwamba. Okay, so in the Falkland, so it's number one. Vaishipera vanani va ambassador va ambassador va America ila pere ila nani kane statement ila vapere. Now ni wale dinkwete va ambassador varandiro ko vati ifinto fo vareshtisha manani kane ma pharmaceuticals ma yala visi no mtu wa TB no mtu na anti-malarias. Now to the surprise is that not muna government na batampoku ya bare ikata abantu ma mukuyikata kwaho is it filofu bara ndire nani kani ambassador ishefuro bare ikata abantu ofyo ara ndire ambassador na una batampoku fichitira muvi because not muna manje ofu bare ikata mana bafu manje bare ikate is it true ofyo bare nani kani ofu bare randa nangu tafirena because tafire monika bwino batamba manje ukula chita affect manje amade chama business balia batamba ukula bekatira. Yesterday I followed balaba pharmaceutical association of bachitri explain wino yesterday nalisa na yumvo baisirera ndoko bati na bene wa government na bena muramwino moda abantu abali shitisho muti na government bamu abakwata ma hospitals baramukoda mu mulyamwe. So nomba ila ine statement nomba na iba opposite bare ikatira mona abantu abakweta ma pharmacist now bare bekatira mu sorongazi bamona fira banchi namba katwishingo bare randapo bare ikatira napana batamba fishika te manje. So ni shofo chakulaba ni shunga baranda ba diplomacy ni shefi yaku if you are Conga, because I was expecting the government to go and arrest the people who were involved in stealing of Warandrepo ambassador. Non TV of very amquicata to Batambo like a teshika take it. Otherwise, in a sheet men. And then he imbiria she owning what to land up our Emmanuel Mwamba ambassador. She vene ama idiria shirana nkane she venga ilipa topic idia shiria CDF. CDF opo batambiro kushita pronounce ama jijitso tumonaria ni paper fie nangu in actual sense tafimonika because kachako ba CDF ida fuma wino gatwali mona ko bati for example mu Lusaka dalanda fi mu Lusaka for example ba PF bali bombere kwa about 85%. Abengi abekala kumunani kali mu areas ya machala la ya mashani bali bombere amatama kibali push ba station manje mu areas mu mbyumu chetu bafitwa fyo kubomba fye CDF ngaira bombeka fye wino bwino CDF ngaira chitika fye wino bwino because almost to 5 years now we don't see anything from them. It is just press briefing after press briefing. Kuchena ngwimofu mwale bomba because futi wali imbi bali temo kulandalanda mairo wala mona uyalanda manje chide papusha na ba UPND media na bukuyalanda they are behaving like bali mu opposition. Ushe ofu mwale chitaba Emmanuel nangu te procedure ifide because the government ofu na ishwa government ngalanda na ba nani kan media butawafide na bena ba mkulandura mufuti chichi boko tulea
crime iyo bana natasha mwapwisha
na totera sana ba Emmanuel pakumpera kwa kakashita otherwise resale misungiriro mtendo koko muri.
Thank you very much. Thank you Honorable Sensio Banda and your contributions, and I think you were trying to say the cooperating partners have a critical space in the governance of our country because they just don't provide lip service, they provide us with cash. And the amounts, if you hear them, especially from the US, are large sums of money, $600 million a year. Budget support from the EU and others, big support. The other caller is talking about CDF, that is they can't see in communities what CDF has done. They just read about it or hear about people praising CDF, but it has no effect. Today we're discussing guarding the vote, securing the will of the people, how the opposition must ensure that when the Zambians express themselves, that will be honored, will be secured. It's a one that will be publicized. And what do? You have to secure institutions such as ECZ. ECZ must be independent. Parliament, you have to look at the laws, the raft of laws that President Hakainde Hichilema is enacting. And why does he want these constitutional amendments? What activities is the opposition engaged in to ensure that this is achieved? We are Kumatero. Let me just take this call, then we'll be closing. And hello, good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba.
Good evening.
Yes, my name is Gilbert. Calling you from Chidirabombwe.
Yes, Gilbert.
Yes, I just want to agree with you when you talked about, the prospects of, the president winning or commanding at most about 34%. You see, although there could be complex, interplay to explain probably the Zambian voting pattern, but one thing that is very clear, if we have to call a spade, and what it is that first of all, historically, Zambia, voting pattern exhibits, some form of, regional or ethnic alignments. Okay, and then if you begin to see the happenings of the eligibility, the JJ Banda, the persecution of the former Republican president, you would see from the way Eastern Province did, during the Petauke. But actually, Eastern Province is slowly adopting the Ndondomwezi way. And that what would happen, we know that demographically, Eastern might register more, but it will cancel the Southern shock. So if Eastern cancels the Southern shock, the other two regions where the president exhibits some form of support will not cancel the other three. What will send the president back home, I think, is Copperbelt and Lusaka. Because historically, or in fact, studies show everywhere on this planet that urban vote follows or influenced by economic performance.
Yeah, the state of the economy, yes.
he must do something extraordinary. He must bring rains in June. For Lusaka to swing and Copper Belt, he must do something extraordinary. That will be the talk of the world. Because if Lusaka and Copper Belt can probably can have somewhere around 3.5 million of the people who would, register and participate in an election, he must go. He's going.
Yeah.
That's what he's sending. And then the other thing is that for the opposition, this is not the time to play. It's not the time to be ambitious.
Yeah.
Because nga uyunga mwamuparusha.
Thank you very much. My dear brother, you are back online. We lost you. We lost your thoughts. Kindly complete your thoughts, Honorable Sensio Banda.
Where did I end? Because the network cut.
You were telling us about the contributions that cooperating partners are putting in our national budget support from the US and the EU.
Okay. Yes. So basically, what it is that our cooperating partner, they indeed support the government to ensure that people's lives are improved. And I think it's only right. Aid is not a right; it's a partnership, and as such, it requires transparency, accountability, and integrity in how we manage public affairs. And even when the owners of them, in fact, in the speech by the ambassador was very categorical. Actually, he did the fact that he has a fiscal obligation to taxpayers in the US to ensure that the money is put into good use. And if that is what happened, he had the duty and the responsibility on behalf of government to make the decision, which was made. And as government, I think much as there was a claim to say there was a violation of the Vienna Convention of 1961 of diplomatic relations and so on and so forth, talks about the conduct and unity. But the issue is that how else we have the ambassador actually raise those issues? Adding to the fact that 3 high-level meetings were held, and I'm told even contractual made various stakeholders within government to ensure that this issue is raised.
Yeah.
And furthermore, it was very appalling that we had to wait for the forensic audit to act. But evidence was there. Do you need forensic audit to actually arrest people involved in the 61 containers of medicines? And some of them were on private premises. So I think for me, we need to be honest in how we manage public affairs, and the duty and responsibility squarely falls on the shoulders of the UPND government to safeguard the lives of the many Zambians. My fear is that with this is that already we have the PEPFAR fund under review under the executive order which was signed, and this PEPFAR is about $367 million. PEPFAR fund most of the medicines golden intervention of essential drugs for ARV, malaria, TB, and all that. And if you look at the posture we have taken, if you look at the speech of the health minister, look at the speech of providing cautious assurance, and also you go look at the foreign affairs minister is emphasis to need to abide by the provision of the convention, and also the president is broad speech. There's a common thread in it is that it's offensive and also passing the buck.
Yeah.
For me, that this was an opportunity to show accountability to the people, to show that the business to curtail what is going on at Ministry of Health. Much as I agree with that, yes, this is not a new phenomenon. Minister of Health has been a conduit for corruption, like
Yeah.
I did indicate earlier on.
Mm.
2009, you had Swedish government, which was providing healthy budgets under they temporarily had to stop the funding and channeled it to other effective means to help the needy. It happened also in 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
Where funding PF was actually temporarily halted. You know, it has happened again. And for me, the fact that this government came on the pedestal of fighting corruption, they should have taken it as an opportunity to actually undertake board reforms and also to ensure deal with the issues which are at the root cause, unlike where you go arrest the illegal pharmacies and so on and so forth. For me, basically,
at the end of the value chain.
Yes, that was basically what I might say from my own point of view is some kind of staged accountability, so to say. You know.
Yeah.
So. So for me, they had an opportunity to deal with this conclusively. Yes, we know where people are, and that ministry has been problematic. They should have taken a which builds a relationship and trust with the people of Zambia and also with the donor community. Because what has happened is it's not just about aid being lost. It's about trust with the people, trust with the donor community. I think the government should take a posture of taking responsibility whenever an issue comes up. They're in charge. They have the instrument.
You can't pass it back.
Yes, So for me, I think there's need to really take responsibility and ensure that hole is plugged.
Yeah.
Minister of Health and deal with the people at the very top. You know, it's not helping deal with the poor Zambians who are just at the tail end. You let go of high level a lot which is happening in higher offices. So for me is that the backstops at the leadership, the backstop at the president, time to pass the buck
is over.
People are looking for this government to be accountable to the people who put them in place. So I think that is my contribution.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sensual Banda. Thank you. Former MP, today are two MPs calling, current MP Bino Mpundu and former MP Honorable Sensual Banda, and to all the callers that called from UK, but Chilufia from Leicester and the other Chilufia and the other colleagues that called from Chilawombo and others, thank you for your contribution. We end today's program like we always do. We do a summary of what we're discussing. I'll play a few videos. Until I see you probably on Wednesday, God bless you. God bless our country. And God bless, or someone says, but read the visit to State House by our Lord Jesus Christ. Let me read it again. Thank you very much. I had postulated that if our Lord Jesus Christ visited State House and found President Hakainde Hichilema holding a cabinet meeting, this is what he would say: "Depart from me, for I was hungry, you ignored to provide food for me. You ignored to lower the cost of living." Christ is that person that is failing to put food on the table for his family while the money is being stolen and looted. Christ is that prisoner that is unfairly imprisoned and has been denied due process of the law. Christ is that student at college or university that is failing to meet his fees and failing to meet, is not supported by bursary or government support because the money is being stolen. Christ is that pensioner traveling every day to cabinet office, to public pension funds, to Ministry of Justice daily in an attempt to obtain his hard-earned pension benefits while the money is being pillaged, being stolen from pension houses. Christ is that activist that has been abducted or taken away in an unmarked vehicles and tortured. Christ would overturn the fancy conference table at State House and demand that you love your neighbor as yourself. Our Lord Jesus Christ will demand that you take care of all your neighbors, especially the least of these. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Truly I say unto you, to the extent that you did it to one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did it to me. That will be Christ. Good night, and listen to these videos.
Yes.
You accuse diplomats.
Yes, some. I use the word
some diplomats of working with the opposition.
And I'm repeating it. I'm repeating it this evening. We have seen some diplomats accredited to Zambia and ambassadors. Some. Underline that. And they should stop it. We don't.
How are they working with opposition?
They're working.
How?
Listen. They're working with the opposition. They are working with the CSOs to undermine the Zambian, the nation's sovereignty, where we are saying we need to amend the constitution. And one of the key components is the delimitation, depriving the people of Zambia. Then this diplomat wants to be funny, funding people to say, no, you must make sure that this constitution does not go through. And you must make sure that this government is hounded out. My brother, he comes here in Mafinga. Now I'm speaking on behalf of the people of Mafinga. The diplomat comes here in this country to come and disturb the people of Mafinga who are enjoying the CDF, who are enjoying the social cash transfer, who are enjoying the enhanced social cash transfer, who now Mafinga, whenever the road, the tar road between us road from 1964, we are being given the road. Where we were moving, we were taking patients from Mafinga to Isoka. Then this diplomat comes and say, what? No. I don't have even an apology.
You're not even apologizing?
No, to those diplomats. No ways. And I'm encouraging the government to say, if they are not going to do it, we'll find ways and means.
So you know them?
I know them and they know themselves. I know them. That we are not. I'm not even apologizing. They came here.
Zambia, as I
for the program,
reiterate what we have mentioned before as a ministry of the need for the use of formal diplomatic channels in communicating with the general public. We'd like to take this opportunity to again request our cooperating partners to take cognizance of the clear provisions of international law, including the provisions of the Vienna Convention of 1961, which outlines the expectations of conduct among diplomatic representatives, including the obligation to respect the laws and regulations of the receiving state.
Yeah, those
to come in December.
Appointed colleagues to make sure that they come on board, and we are hoping that we can move together. The issue of the procurement of medicine, most of it with short shelf life, the major challenge we have had, and I would want to say this, sometimes when we fail, we should admit, is that the ZAMSA project, I could only describe it as a failed project. We have seen pilferages from the top up to the driver, up to the security guard and everyone else. And what we are discussing now is, can we have a ZAMSA reset? Not business as usual. And one of the things I've been having meetings with the cooperating partners, the entire health sector was run by, most of it was run by the US government. We are receiving $600 million on an annual basis, $450 million going into the health sector. I asked the colleagues, the contracts manager from USAID, I had a meeting with the PS, we have been having meetings with them to try and talk about the reset of ZAMSA and how we fill in the void because USAID is going out. And I had a meeting with the contracts manager for USAID. How much does it cost for ZAMSA to distribute the medicine? 3.5 times the cost of what it costs for these agencies that are helping us to do this work. 3.5 times. So if we say ZAMSA starts distributing the medicine and we don't reset ZAMSA, it means we are going to increase the cost by 3.5 times. We had another situation where there was a report, there was no medicine at ZAMSA in 2002. We went in 2003, we had a lot of money.
And in December, we will sit again to now agree what sanctions need to be taken. I must alert you as citizens that the health sector has been dogged with problems for probably 20 years. And we are committed to rooting out those problems. But we can't do it by a thumbsuck. We have to pin down where the problems are, right? Who is taking drugs? How is it that drugs leave a health process system, end up in private pharmacies, some of which are owned by people working in the same health sector? We have now established where the problem is. And when we come to you for your support, we will lay the report on the table that this is what's been going on, and these are the actions we are taking. And we are determined, if we have to remove 100 people, so it will be.
$100 million a year. That's nearly 17 billion kwacha annually toward our shared goals of economic development and improved health and public well-being. Roughly 1 in every 3 kwacha spent on public health in Zambia comes as grant assistance from the American people. As part of this, in recent years, the United States has provided approximately $128 million annually. That's about 3.5 billion kwacha every year to buy medications to treat HIV, malaria, and tuberculosis, as well as to provide the technical and operational support for Zambia's national health supply chain. These medications and supplies are intended to be provided for free to the Zambian patients in need. Now today, millions of Zambians are living longer, healthier lives because of this assistance, which comes again in the form of grants, not loans, provided by the American taxpayer. We're incredibly proud to have partnered with Zambia to